Secondary source writer. Dear sir or madam, will you read my marketing book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? It's based on characteristics of a market that is near, and I need a job, so I want to be a secondary source writer. Secondary source writer. Ladies and gentlemen, you might recognize that song. Yes, the famous Deer song. Well, today we are going to use that idea, that theme, to talk about secondary research sources. Now, this is an extension of marketing research. This is a facet of marketing research. So make sure that you get out your notes, you follow the STORM philosophy, and sit back and enjoy. Okay, so what's the plan for today? Well, let's start off with identifying what exactly secondary research is. We will then move on to when we want to use secondary information. Next, how to gather and use secondary information. And lastly, the various secondary research sources from books all the way through to marketing professionals. So what is secondary marketing research? Well, secondary marketing research is that information that has been collected and published by others. Many of these others are experts in their field, experts in their industry. They have a lot of knowledge that they wish to impart on others. And so these secondary research sources oftentimes are very, very valuable. However, we also must state that secondary research can come from within the firm itself, within the company. This is called internal secondary data. And this is where employees of a company have devoted some time at their work to find out all the current information regarding their industry. Current consumer trends, current purchasing trends, competitive analysis, all this can be considered secondary data. And so it can come from within the company as well. And so when should secondary data be used? Well, when a business is developing its marketing strategy, secondary data can help. When a marketing department or marketing executives are engaged in decision making, again, secondary data can be an assistance to that decision making process. And so firms should always consider secondary data source when they're conducting research or making decisions. No firm can afford to waste any time and money to conduct expensive primary research data gathering methods, such as surveys. However, secondary data that has been collected can be out of date. It may not be as accurate as you would like to be. As well, it might have been collected for a different objective, different purpose, and therefore it's not necessarily what you are looking for. The advantages and disadvantages of secondary data will vary depending on the source. Many sources are free and usually cheap to access, such as government data. However, many secondary data sources are actually very, very expensive. Think about this. Someone has already taken the time to complete the secondary data gathering. So they are not willing to sell this information for such a affordable price. The other thing to make mention is the idea that some of this information may be a little bit too general, and because it's available to everyone, it's necessarily going to give an organization, a business, such a competitive edge that they're looking for. If it's available to everyone, everyone can use it. And so what you want to find are those sources that can definitely give you that competitive edge. So gathering secondary research or information is not any different than marketing research process that we described in the previous video. You need to search for the type of information that you are looking for from reputable sources. You need to analyze and interpret the results of that information. You have to use the limited data available to you, and often at times you have to pay for the information. So this is not any different from other marketing research techniques. The only difference that you might find is that you don't necessarily have to tabulate the information, and this again can save you a lot of time and money. So the most common secondary research sources are books, periodicals, magazines, indexes, databases, the internet, marketing consultants, and marketing professionals. Now I know the first one here, books, many of you may not be familiar with it. It's something that may be foreign to you. It's a collection of papers, often has lots of words written on it. It's bound together in some sort of cover. Some can be fictitious, some can be non-fictitious. Some of you have seen these before in such places as a bookstore or a library. So I'm not assuming that you guys know this. I know that many of you don't know this. You only know the internet. However, books are available from many different places. Public college and university libraries have an amazing collection of books, all that can be used in marketing research. Typically, it costs some money to access books from libraries in terms of paying some sort of fee, whether it's through taxes or if you're at the public college or university level, it's often through your tuition. Bookstores, again, if you're going to buy it from a bookstore, yes, that too you have to pay for. But again, this is really, really low in terms of price. As well, many books cover a variety of different marketing aspects, from the teenage consumer's mind to the mature markets and what they are looking for, from a competitive analysis of an industry to any number of different marketing topics. So typically books include theories, studies, past experiences, guides, and insights, often written by experts in their field. The next one is periodicals. Now, this is what we mean by magazines or newspapers or journals or reports that have to do with a specific industry or function of the business. Access to these magazines are typically free. If you wish to purchase or have a subscription, well, then that's you're going to pay for that. But typically, it is free. Sources of many of these periodicals are now online on the internet and in trade magazines that you can subscribe to, or some of these you can actually find in various bookstores such as Indigo or Chapters, where they have a wide assortment of magazines. The next one is indexes. Now, indexes are a collection of articles that are published about a specific topic over a particular period of time. Access typically does cost money. If you think of an index that you have used before, you probably would say EBSCO or InfoTrack, something that you've used through the library system. And therefore, typical sources of indexes are through school, public, community, college, and university libraries. And oftentimes, they pay for those sources, so you don't have to. And a wealth of information is available to you, lots of statistics, lots of research that has been gathered over years, and a lot of great insight into industries and markets. Databases. Now, this is very similar to an index, and oftentimes it's interrelated, but I thought I'd separate this. Again, this provides a list of information organized by category. Access to databases, however, typically does cost some money. Some are free, but typically if you want the cold hard facts of the database, you'll have to pay for those. A very common one that we will use in our class is Statistics Canada. That's a database that has gathered information from all Canadians over the course of a couple years, and they've put that together in lots of different lists of information, categories such as the economy to consumer trends and that. It can be specific, such as the Canadian hockey stick manufacturers, or it can be very broad in terms of just all Canadian businesses that export to, let's say, the Netherlands. So there's this new invention called the internet. I know it's revolutionary. However, this is a great source of secondary research information. Internet search engines will help you find very useful websites. However, I will say this, not always, because the reputable websites are sometimes hard or difficult to find. Often you'll find the inaccurate, unedited, or not dated websites, and therefore we don't consider these reputable. Oftentimes we'll find websites, but they're not necessarily concise. Sometimes there's just too much information. But the great thing about the internet, it's free, right? Anyone can access it and get this information. A lot of sources that are now available to you, such as expert blogs, discussion forums, or listservs, which are emails sent out to industry professionals. And one thing I'll also add on to this, Twitter. Amazing device that you can use for marketing research. There's a lot of professionals who share information via Twitter. So great source of information there. The next one is market consultants. Now, these are individuals who are experts in their field, or sometimes businesses, specialized small businesses who provide information on markets and industries and help other businesses make those important marketing decisions. Now, access to marketing consultants typically is very expensive. Again, these are experts, specialists. However, many university, college, and business faculties offer their consulting for free because professors also work to write papers, and they need to conduct some of their own marketing research, and therefore if they can team up with a lot of companies, that will help them in their research gathering process. And last up, marketing research professionals. Now, these are different from consultants. Consultants are experts in a field, in an industry. Marketing research professionals are those who are experts at conducting marketing research. And therefore, many marketing research professionals will gather together, form a company, and conduct marketing research for various industries. They conduct all sorts of different primary research techniques, from focus groups to surveys to observations, and they write reports on various industries and consumer trends. Access to this information, highly expensive. It's very, very valuable information, but it's very, very expensive information. Many marketing research companies provide this. There's tons across the world. Some are very, very large. Some are boutique type firms. Well, that brings us to the end of this presentation. Now, I know for many of you, this was not anything necessarily new. You have used or seen many of these secondary research sources before, but when we put it into a marketing research context, maybe you have gathered some insight as far as why or when we would use such different secondary research sources. And so that brings us to these final questions. When would you use each source? Would you use every source all the time? Would you use special sources in special situations? And again, some drawbacks to using other people's work. I mean, think of it in your own way. If you were to write an essay or a paper for one of your courses, would you necessarily rely on one of your peers and the information they gathered? So these are things to consider. All right, so make sure your notes are in order and you are completely up to date. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.